Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the XFL Fan Zone. Well, it's Friday already, and tomorrow we have XFL action. And what are the top 5 questions going into week 3 of the XFL? Let's get into it right away. The first question is the same one I've had for the last 2 weeks. Will the ratings and attendance fare out? Week 1, the attendance was okay. It was a bit disappointing if you ask me. The AAF did better than us when you compare it to them last year. But our TV ratings made up for it. They were well past what the AAF did. Week 2, we saw a dip in the ratings as we thought we would, but the ratings held pretty strong. Seattle had, I think, a 7.6 for the home opener, which I think translates to 7.5 million people watched. And even here in New York, despite the Guardians being looked bad, they still performed better in the ratings than our 2 basketball teams and our 3 hockey teams here. So that's a very good sign. And the week 2 attendance was a 10% increase, no thanks to the Seattle fans who came out, almost had 30,000 people at Century Lake Field. So will the ratings hold steady this week? If the ratings do hold steady, that is a very good sign for the league. That means we're still outdrawing the NBA, college, and hockey also. And will the attendance increase? Well, we had almost 30,000 last week in Seattle. What will their second home game bring this week? After we saw local hero Jim Zorn lead his team to 17 unanswered points and come from behind win against the Tampa Bay Vipers, will there be 30,000 people again? Hopefully, it'd be great, but listen, I think anything over 20,000 would be awesome for the league. And if it's over 25, I'd be ecstatic. That's a good sign. You had the fact that the St. Louis Battlehawks are having a home opener this week. That's going to be sold out. They're expecting about 30,000 there. Right there alone, that you could have about 60,000 right there. Now, the only question is, what about the fans in LA? Last week for the home opener, they had just under 15,000. Disappointing, but not surprising in that fair weather big event city. But because they played in that small soccer stadium, it looked good and it sounded good. Like I said, this is where the XFL needs to go. They have to play in these small stadiums. And of course, the last one is the Tampa Bay home opener. How will that do? Tampa Bay was the favorites coming in to win it all this week, the preseason favorites, and they're 0-2. Haven't scored a touchdown, but have managed to win every statistical category the first 2 games. Go figure. I can't ever see that happening again. So now they're going to be a home underdog this week against the 2-0 Roughnecks, a game which I'm calling the Gulf War. Go look at the map and you'll figure out why I call it the Gulf War. And how will they do attendance-wise? I've not heard anything about their opening day attendance, which scares me, because if they were doing good, they would be publishing it. Will it be last-minute shoppers? I don't know. We're going to find out. But Tampa was one of the 2 cities I was worried about attendance. Them and LA. LA did what I thought they would do. It is what it is. But like I said, 15,000 in Dignity Health Park is not better than 15,000 in the old LA Coliseum, what the LA Extreme did years ago. Question number 2. With the CFL contracts expiring, how many will jump to the XFL? We already had 4 this week jump, some pretty big names. S.G. Green, Amonte Edwards, Derek Dennis, and Thad Coleman. All signed XFL contracts. Now, what teams they have gone to, it goes through the waiver wires. I'm not sure how that works. But those are pretty big names. And why not? When you average the amount of salary in the Canadian League to the XFL, I much rather play in the XFL myself. Maybe the salary is a little bit larger percentage in the Canadian League, but you play 18 games in the Canadian League as opposed to only 10 in the XFL. You get paid in American money, and even in New York where taxes are high, or New Jersey, it's still lower than anywhere in Canada. So why not that? And you get the exposure of being on a national TV game every week, playing to more type of NFL type rules, which would attract player agents and scouts. I would jump to the XFL. And with the ridiculous rules the Canadian Football League has with allocating moving players around, and I would want to know where I'm staying. So I think the XFL is going to be doing some damage to the XFL will be doing a lot of damage to the Canadian Football League. We'll see how the Canadian Football Leagues will they change. People who follow this league for many years have said the CFL needs to change. The attendance is not that great. They only have 9 teams in their league. They can't even get a 10th. We already have 8 in our first year. So, how will the CFL impact the XFL and vice versa? That's your second question. Third question. Will we have 2 3-0 teams and 2 0-3 teams? Boy, I hope not. I don't think it's beneficial for the league in its first year to have 2 0-3 teams and 2 3-0 teams in a league that says it was going to have parity. Especially with LA and Tampa being home this week and Tampa having their home opener. If they were to go 0-3, what would that do to attendance and ratings for the rest of the league? I'm telling you right now, I'm being honest. I told you I want Houston to go to the XFL Championship because it's being held in Houston. But I want Tampa and LA to win this week because I want the fan interest to be there. I want the TV ratings to be high. We just cannot afford 2 3-0 teams and 0-3 teams, in my honest opinion. It would almost essentially knock those 2 teams out of the playoff race. Now, the double-edged sword is because all these teams play each other, they're still in it. And we've seen this before. We saw it in the XFL, and we saw it in the World League. I can remember my New York, New Jersey Knights starting 0-3 and finishing 5-5 and making the playoffs. I remember my Knights the next year starting 0-4 and finishing 6-4. So it is possible. But I don't want, for ratings wise and for attendance wise and for revenue wise, I don't want to see that happen. Question number 4. Will the Tampa Bay Vipers figure out their offensive woes? They have managed to win every offensive and defensive statistical category and have lost both games on the road as a road favorite and not score an offensive touchdown. I don't think we'll ever see it again, but I hope they fix the offensive woes. I want to see them play a good game. I'm hoping they pull upset against the Roughnecks. I think they can beat the Roughnecks. You look at the stats. The Vipers do everything but score. If they could fix their touchdown problems, their red zone offense, this will be a good game. There's a reason why this team was the preseason favorite. They have a lot of talent, and Mark Trestman has been around. And of course, the fifth and final question is, after last week's Matt McGloin meltdown, how will he perform? Will he stick his foot in his mouth? Will he rise to the occasion? Or will we see Marquise Williams or Luis Perez? Now, Luis Perez has not been a team that long. The Gilbride offense is kind of complex. He is a very smart guy. I don't know. Marquise Williams brings another dimension. He's a big guy like Cardale Jones. He can scramble, but he's not the thrower Cardale Jones is either. And Marquise Williams is not really the Kevin Gilbride type of quarterback, if you ask me. To me, he's the floater. If Luis Perez starts, to me, Marquise Williams would be the backup. He would come in and change things around. If McGloin starts, same thing. I think Marquise Williams would be the person to come in and change things up a bit. That's just my opinion. So those are the 5 questions we have this week, in my opinion, for the XFL. Let me know what you think. Fans, I'll be in Philadelphia this week at my daughter's meet, but I'm going to DVR the games and I'll watch them when I get home. So we'll talk to you later. Enjoy the football.